All right, welcome back to another Wright Stew podcast. I am Paul Stewart.
And I am Brian Wright, and we have made it to Monday, and it's always good to make it to Monday. We had a great Easter Sunday, good food, good church, all that good stuff.
Good. Was there a
Well,
good sermon, good message at the church on Sunday,
yeah,
Brian?
yeah, yeah, always ones I need to hear, that's for sure. Always need to hear them. Need to apply them. Sometimes that's more challenging with life, but always good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we were down out of town a little bit, and went to a church with our family, and they were little Thomas, doubting Thomas is kind of what the focus was, and there was a little different message on a kind of a resurrection Sunday, but still good to hear. Like I said, it's interesting to hear. But
That's an interesting thought process. That's an interesting sermon to do. But yeah,
yeah,
I think we always you deal with that stuff in life and in your faith and in sport, right? In sport. I mean, that's
yeah,
having a little faith in your teams and a little faith in the process.
a little
And
faith in yourself. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that is an interesting point because a lot of you learn and meet a lot of guys in baseball. Some are more I guess faithful or religious or whatever you want to call it. More spiritual, however you want to call it, than others are not. I don't know if it helps one way or another from an athletic perspective, right?
Oh, this is good. I
I
didn't know we
think
were going this way. I didn't know. Hey, I'll say this. I've got some, you kind of feel like I played with some guys. And again, I'll be the first one to say I didn't live it the way I should or the way I thought I should. I was kind of in between here and there, and was very much a baseball player with language. Some of the things I said, acted, all those sort of things. But the ones you respected, and the ones I think about now, Luke Scott was one I played with in Kinston. He's an Oklahoma State kid. Not terribly big. Ended up having a pretty decent little stretch when he was with Baltimore. Really lived it though, man. He lived it. I mean, he was not afraid to say what he thought, which I appreciate the boldness. And he lived it out, man. He didn't curse. He handled things. He learned Spanish because he knew there's a bunch of Spanish guys. Just good people, man. Good. So the ones that I remember are the guys who actually lived it. The ones that were hard for me, and I don't think I was this guy, but the guy that was kind of preaching one moment, and then MF and chasing girls and not really living as much. That's the one you're like, man, that just kind of gives a bad name to all of it.
yeah, yeah.
So it is it's interesting because you do, right? I don't necessarily think God is, not to go down this place on Monday morning, but is necessarily about winning and losing. It's more about the long journey. So it is always a conflict. Like you pray before games. Hopefully, maybe pray for safety. I'm not a big believer in praying for wins and losses because obviously there's guys on the other side he cares about, right? So I'm not big
On
on.
both sides, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not big. I don't necessarily know if God is picking sides. Even though it feels like, in jest and fun, you say it like the baseball gods. There's things and momentum that switches sides, but I don't think God's really pulling for a certain team.
No, no, and I think the folks who have a little more faith, I think they can handle failure a little more. I would say, like maybe they might be a little more grounded at certain times because they have a bigger picture in mind.
Oh,
And
that's a good point. That's actually a really good
I
point.
think there's a little bit of that involved as well. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's always great to see the folks who live it and talk it and walk it and do the whole thing. And then
Absolutely, and the ones that struggle and realize it, right? And so, I was thinking about you were talking about faith and self, man. I still can't get over. I finished, and I'm not going to beat this to death, man. I know you haven't watched it, but the Clubhouse. So I was watching Duran, and I forgot, man. In the All Star game last year, hits a home run in the
yeah,
All
no,
Star
no,
game.
yeah, took the lead in the All-Star game.
Yeah, so I know you recall that stuff, and I don't. Very much a hitter. I forget really quickly. But the reality is, dude, he is so hard on himself, man. Just and I go back to it's hard to be a superstar and be extremely kind of glass half full guy, but man, it's interesting to see the different personalities that do work and do have success. I mean, I think that's the encouraging thing about baseball. It's not only the different size guys, it's different backgrounds that guys can come from, and kind of different viewpoints that they can kind of go about it. And just kind of jump into another thing. There's this big kind of back and forth, and you sent me this clip where famously the teacher man was
Oh
using
yeah.
Will
Oh, use
Clark. I
Will
think you sent
Clark.
it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he used Will Clark as an example, and Will Clark gets on his little podcast or whatever. He's like, "Don't ever effing use my swing as an example ever again." He's like, "I worked hours and hours and hours, and I wasn't doing this dip the backside, you know." And so it's just kind of interesting, man. I just think there's so many people trying to create that result, and you look at a handful of guys, and I think some guys do some things differently, and Judge can do things the way he does them, but
Yeah.
man, it's
Well,
interesting.
Will Clark, for our younger listeners, went to Mississippi State, drafted by the Giants, was on Team USA, was an amazing ball player, first baseman, played for the Giants for a long, long time, finished his career with the Rangers, but was known to have like one of the sweetest swings
It's
in
interesting that, and I
baseball.
think that's true. But I never liked his swing. I never liked. He was closed off.
Well, he
I
closed off,
mean,
but I mean, people loved his swing.
people love his swing. I was not a huge fan. I feel like his head moved a lot, but obviously it worked for him. That's the reason I still go back to, man. And you're exactly right. A lot of people loved his swing, and I think he did do everything he could to perfect it. But I don't think it's one that you necessarily teach, man. If you go back and look at some of his swings, a lot of them, his head was moving a lot. He was really closed off. He was kind of fighting himself, it looked like. But man, he was had a ton of success. When I think of Will Clark, I just think of like, and again, I don't think this was the case, but he always looked like he was kind of hungover, and he was just kind of angry. He kind of played angry. He didn't have like, you hear about girls having like resting bitch face. He
Yeah,
had kind of like resting angry face to me. He was
I
just,
think.
and maybe that was just kind of his mentality. I loved it as a competitor watching him. I loved him as a competitor. His swing, not as much.
Yeah, I think he was just a gamer, dude. He was just intense, and I'll always remember him. So I've shared like the 1989 Cubs. That was my favorite team of all time. So the Cubs were in the NL East, and they won the NL East in '89. The boys of Zimmer and the Giants, the San Francisco Giants, won the NL West. So at the time, there was only the NL East played the NL West in the National League Championship Series, and Will Clark just had an amazing LCS in 1989. Like he was just going nuts. Let's see, he was in the LCS and World Series that year. Combined in the LCS and World Series hit 472.
Wow,
He
that's
was
ridiculous.
he was
Ridiculous.
17 for 36.
Locked in.
Four doubles, a triple, two home runs, eight RBIs. I mean, it doesn't get a whole lot better than that. And he was the National League Championship Series MVP that year. So, yeah, he was.
Hey, speaking of domination, we don't talk about this enough. Obviously, the NBA playoffs have started,
Uh huh.
and I watched some of a game today or yesterday. Watched some of a game. The I've never seen. I mean, maybe there's been this bad a loss in the history. But Memphis and OKC were playing. Memphis beat them. I think ended up being
The
by like
Oklahoma City
50.
one. Oklahoma City one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry. Yeah, Oklahoma City beat them by like 50 points. 50 points.
51 points. They beat him 131 to 80.
They were up 60 points at one time.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's the fifth biggest or fifth largest margin of victory in NBA postseason history.
just ridiculous. Not a watchable game. I'll tell you this. It wasn't. It was on as we were hanging out and kind of doing the Easter celebration, having a long lunch or whatever. But just incredible. Just domination. Obviously, is to be determined. Who I feel like there are some different teams that can win this NBA playoffs.
Yeah, not
And
Memphis. Good grief.
but yeah, Memphis does not feel. But it's just one game. Just what I know it's different in the playoffs, but it still just counts as one game. You
Yeah,
were
yeah. They can come back and win. You win by 51 or you win by one. A win's a win. It doesn't really
a
matter.
win is a win, and you kind of had some scores for me on the baseball side
Yeah.
that
Well, let me tell you this before we jump over there. So the largest margin of victory in NBA history in playoffs is 58 points. It's been done twice. So as recently as 2009, Denver beat New Orleans 121 to 63.
wow,
60, that was in 2009.
yeah.
And in 1956, so going way back, the Minneapolis Lakers beat the St. Louis Hawks 133 to 75.
Oh, I like that name, St. Louis Hawks.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then let's see, in 1973, the Los Angeles Lakers, beat the Golden State Warriors 126 to 70. So it's a 56-point margin. And then the fifth highest was the Bulls beat the Bucks by 54 by kind of 120 to 66 in 2015.
Oh man, it's a beatdown. It's a beatdown, and it'd be interesting to see how you bounce back. I mean, we've been on that side at our kid baseball, and you kind of got two different ways you can look at it, right? And it's almost the feel of the game. Like if you feel like your kids kind of give an effort and they got dominated, I think you approach that and you kind of speak to them one way. If you feel like they just booted the ball around, they weren't really locked in, they were goofing off, whatever, I think
Yeah.
you approach that a different way. But when you're talking about the big leagues and that sort of thing, and tell me some of the scores, you saw some massive scores
So
in
it
one
was
direction.
it was really interesting. So the Brew Crew, we'll start there. Brew Crew won 14-1 over the
Mm,
Oakland A's. Not Oakland, sorry, just the Athletics. So
that's
the
right.
Athletics, Brewers won 14-1. And then even bigger, Cincinnati, the Reds beat the Orioles 24-2. I mean,
It's
just
just, man, it's just sometimes the momentum of the one individual game just gets out of control.
yeah,
And as an athlete, I think you evaluate what you can do if you're on the losing side, and then you kind of sweep that. You count that as an anomaly,
yeah,
as an athlete. Now, as a coach, I think you do different things depending on what the situation was. But as an athlete, you kind of got to forget it. You can't take it as we suck because I think that can build on top of something that you don't want to happen. If you
yeah,
can turn the page and get to the next, hey, what did I do and what can I do better? I think that's the kind of key of kind of turning the page on it and not letting it turn into 2 games or 3 games,
yeah.
of bad results.
And so this is one of those games, Brian, where the Reds, a couple guys had 7 at bats, some 6 at bat games, and you know if you're getting 6 and 7 at bats, you're having fun up there as an offense, right?
As long as you're feeling good. What's terrible in that situation is if everybody around you is going good and you're the one who's constantly ending the inning, and you got
Yeah,
like a 0 for 6 or like 3 Ks. If you're going good, you want to hit more. And there's days, where for some reason the ball seems bigger. Maybe there's some science behind it. And there's days where it looks like a BB. Hopefully, you're on one of those days where it looks like a beach ball. Because if you are having that many ABs in a day where it looks like a BB, you're just like, gosh knows.
yeah. So,
Can't can't,
so
can't we just move
everybody,
it on?
yeah, everybody in the starting lineup got a hit.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was
That
good.
is awesome.
TJ Friedel, I guess you could say, had the worst day. He was 1 for 6 with an RBI, a couple walks. So he had 8 plate appearances. But let me give you the 8 and 9 batters were Noelvi Marte, the third baseman, and Austin Wins, the catcher. So Marte was 5 for 7 with 7 RBIs and a home run on the day and 2 doubles. Scored 3 runs. So 5 for 7, Brian, with 7 RBIs. And then Wins was 6 for 7 with
Ooh.
6 RBIs,
Well, that'd change your career. That'd change a month right there.
and a home run as well. So, I mean, man, but between your 8 and 9 hole going 11 for 14 on the day with 13 RBIs, that's I think you take that as often as you can get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And all these offenses are trying to trying to put competitive guys up and down the lineup. But man, a lot of these offenses don't feel like they have that. But hey, good for those guys, man. That's a good
No.
feeling. But even on the positive side, you kind of got to turn the page and you come back the next day and you're 0 for 0. Which is kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the beautiful thing about baseball. You're 0
Hopefully,
for 0 the next
yeah.
day. Hey, speaking of baseballs in general, again, I don't want to beat this to death, the clubhouse, but the one stat that I thought was interesting. How much do you think the big league team spends in baseballs every year?
Did they share this in one of the later
They
episodes?
share. They shared in one of the later episodes.
Spends on, and so we're talking for a big league season. Is that
Yes, just the big league team, not including spring training, not including minor leagues.
okay? So this is game balls, BP balls. So game balls we've talked about. They use anywhere from 75 to 85 roughly a game.
Hmm.
I'm gonna just round that up to 100 because I can't do math that quick. Say $5 a pop. That's 500 bucks there. Uh, $50,000.
I was thinking 100,000, but the lady that had the show, she was reordering, and I think they were in September, and they had spent $490,000
Holy
on
cow!
baseballs, not including spring training, not including minor leagues. So they had spent $490,000. And baseballs now, I don't know if big league teams get better, but if me and you were to buy big league baseball, it's about $12 a piece.
I said five felt really low. Yeah.
Yeah, five was kind of back in the day, but yeah, she had spent, and she just did an order. I can't recall what the numbers were, but she'd spent $35,000 more, and they had already spent 490, so a little over $500,000 for baseballs now for a big league team, not including minor leagues. That's the reason when you guys go and you get those home run balls for BP, I don't know if they're different. I think they are a little bit different because I think the big league balls has like that little emblem they can trace back.
Oh, the little hologram thing. The
So
yeah, we've
it's
never
who
gotten
knows.
a game used ball. The only ball, so we've gotten stubber balls during BP, right? And they may be different, but we've never caught a foul ball or a home run ball in actual gameplay. It's always been, or like one's ever been tossed to us in game. So,
Very cool. Very
uh,
cool.
but it's interesting too because like I said, the one we caught last week was essentially a pearl. Like it had one little scuff on it. And then I think back to Beloit. So Beloit, Wisconsin one year. We're low A ball. And we were running low on baseball. Like I don't know where they were going. If we were hitting them out and just not getting them, or what they were, or giving them away. I don't know what we were doing, but we didn't have. And I remember our trainer is, hey guys. So we were playing the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers, right? The Mariners team at the time, and he kind of says, "Hey, give us we're low on balls. Grab a couple from their bucket and put them in ours." And when you're in the minor leagues, everybody writes their like initials or something on the
Yeah.
ball, right? Like in
Yeah.
Sharpies. And so I think we just had BEL on ours for Beloit. And I think they had like WT or whatever, Wisconsin Timber Rattlers, or maybe a WI or whatever it was. And I remember our guys took that to heart because they snaked like half the bucket during BP.
Oh
And
no.
their clubby or somebody came over to our side and looked in our bag, and it was full of all their baseballs.
Oh
And I was like,
no.
yeah, it's not a good look. So I think then we ended up almost getting into a fight with them, kind of a brawl, because I don't think that had anything to do with it, but maybe that rose the tensions a little bit. But that was
Dude, yeah, it's something, and I was never in any situation I knew of where we were low on baseballs, but dude, it is there's no doubt they throw one out every time it gets touched now,
oh, in the
so it's
big
no
leagues,
doubt.
yeah, it hits the ground, they're tossing it. And I actually saw Greg Maddox do it in an interview the other day, and they were recalling a pitch against the Florida Marlins that he threw. Then it looked like it went left to right by about, and for Maddox is right-handed, is really really tough to do, but it looked like it moved probably 3 feet from like the left outside of the left-handed batter's box to the outside corner. It was incredible. And he recalled the pitch. I mean, he knew exactly what pitch was talking about. He's like, yeah. He was, I got one, had it was a ground ball, had a big scuff on it, and he goes, I essentially just put the scuff to the outside and let the ball run to the inside. And He's like, man, he's like, you can't do that anymore. They've changed balls out way too much.
Yeah, dude, it's incredible. It's incredible. I know that exact video, dude, and it did. It's like the ultimate two seamer or screwball. I mean, it was just ridiculous, ridiculous.
Yeah,
But it is. It's funny, man. Yeah, there's none of that anymore. Definitely no spitballs or scuff balls anymore. I mean, you
no.
sometimes,
Well,
you
that's what's
wonder.
crazy too. Is I don't. So first, I don't think anybody would even know how to use a scuffed ball because they're not, especially at the big league level, they're non-existent. And I know it's kind of crazy when when you and I are coaching, or even middle school or high school, like those umpires, like some of our games, they're working with like 4 or 5 balls, like, and they're using ones from the game before, and they're like
Yeah, and they're not great.
they're
They
fussing at
look
us
like
about
they've
chasing
been
them
cleaned.
down, and like that's not. I don't
Yeah.
think that's our job to chase.
Well, yeah, and hey, we'll get kids and send them, but it's
Yeah,
almost one of those things where it's like with us, hey, we pay for the tournament. Let's freaking, hey, let's, I feel like
well, I
y'all
mean,
should
I don't
provide
expect the
these
umpire to
balls.
go get them, but like,
No, no,
like
no. He's got things to do, but there should be almost somebody that is. There should be a system where you give a sucker or something for every ball that comes back in. Or something.
yeah,
There needs to be
something.
a better way to do it. But
Yeah.
the big leagues ain't got to worry about that. But they're spending $500,000 a year on
Yeah.
baseballs.
No, but what's funny too is like some of our ball. Like I was watching one of the my son's middle school game the other day, and he was actually hitting, and he swung and hit one off the cap, and it was just one of those ones that he's right-handed and kind of just like kind of screwed into the right-handed bat or the batter's box on the first base side. And kid on deck just picked it up and flipped it to the pitcher. And I'm like, dude, that's the one that gets just straight cut right there.
Yeah, yeah. Then it's dirty. It's
Yeah,
dirty.
I'm like, I
Dirty,
don't
dirty.
like, and the umpire, no, umpires, and same thing. Like balls get fouled off into our games and during travel stuff. They're hitting
It gets the
concrete and cement,
fence.
and
Yeah,
kids with sticky fingers are out there grabbing them. And
yeah. Nobody says anything. It's
yeah, I'm like,
crazy.
I was like, gee, yeah, but again, I don't think, at our age, especially the kids don't know how to do anything with it. But they,
I think it will change though. I mean, I definitely with some older kids with our middle school, they are aware of it, and there's one savvy enough to where he wants it and has used it. So I
oh
will
no,
say that's still in there, but I think it may be more in the younger kids, or as you get to this high school level and they're not changing out balls, but definitely on the big league side, that stuff's gone.
yeah, yeah. I'll be curious to see how it looks once we get to higher levels and how often they're changing the ball out. And, did you notice that at the Mudcats game the other night?
Yeah, they changed them often. They changed them often. I mean, it wasn't as often in big leagues, but if, there were several times, and I thought the pitcher was going to get into an argument. And I've heard some of the pitchers in the big leagues talk about this, where sometimes like some of the baseballs don't feel like they're made very well.
Oh,
And in one
interesting.
situation, guy went through three, and one of them he threw back to the catcher. The catcher let it roll between his legs. Then the umpire throws him another one. He looks at it, throws it off, throws it into the dugout. Then they pick up the one that the catcher let roll between his legs, throw it back to him. Then then the pitcher throws it back into the dugout. And so it finally got to the third baseball, and he used it. But yeah, I would say they're not, obviously not big league, but they are not as they're definitely not rec ball either. I mean, it is
Yeah.
or travel baseball. But I do think there's some different quality of baseballs. I remember one of the big league guys talking that, man, even the quality of baseball in the big leagues right now, you can tell that there's two different manufacturers, and they'll try to mix them
Interesting.
together, and maybe they're bought, but they're not the same, and you can tell when you get one that's been made in one line and one that's been made in another line. So I'm sure consistency whenever they're producing that many balls is a challenge.
Yeah. I got one more thing to talk about before we get to athlete you should know, Brian.
All right.
So we talked about this back in January, and I asked you, who do you think is going to have a bigger impact on the team, Max Fried with the Yankees or Juan Soto with the Mets? And I think we both kind of went like Max Fried. So Fried actually pitched yesterday and had a no hitter through 7. And then he goes out to start the 8th, and they made an announcement that there was a play earlier in the game, I think around the 6th inning, where the first baseman booted it, and they ruled it an error. He goes out for the 8th, and they announce that the official scorer changed the call to a hit. So
Mm,
so he lost his no hitter on
an
the
inning or
scorekeeper
two
changing
later.
his mind like an inning or two later.
It's interesting. You sent me some stuff with your girls over the years as you've had people associated with you doing the official scorebook and people kind of begging for it. My thought is on that, if a guy either has to run a long ways in the outfield, and long ways is definitely subjective. Diving,
Yeah.
then you can kind of judge it for a hit likely. But if it's kind of within the rhythm, a handful of steps one way or the other, hey, I mean, that's an error, and let's just make it. Did you actually see the play? Would you have classified it as an error?
I would have had it as an error. Yeah. The first baseman was playing pretty far off the bag and went to his right, and he just missed it. It either hit his heel or he just missed it, hit his shin, and ricocheted off. And Freed was over. So it was a left-handed hitter up. Freed was covering the bag, and the runner was moving up the line pretty good. And I think initially it just looks like a straight error. Yeah, hits his heel, or actually misses his glove and hits like the top part of his hand and bounces away. But I think he probably watched the replay, the score, and thought that the runner would have beat him there regardless. But
Mm.
I mean, it was a straight error. I mean, if it's
Yeah, it's one of the few things. I mean, really, baseball in a lot of ways is so objective, right? You win or lose. You pitch well, don't pitch well. Um,
yeah,
Sometimes with hits, it does get subjective, which is kind of interesting and kind of part of the beauties that, your batting average is your batting average. Well, it is, but a lot of that batting average is subjective, right? Not a lot, but some of it can be, depending on what your skill set is. I saw where Tampa Bay just brought up their super speedy guy. Have you seen this? Have you seen their speedy center fielder that they just brought up?
I guess yeah. I saw it. It didn't really hit my radar too hard. Were you watching? Did you check him out? Was he
Well,
throwing
I
some
did not
bags?
see. I did not see his first handful of ABs, so they were just showing. I can't remember his name, but they were just showing basically his first couple at bats in spring training. And this is legitimately, he hit balls to third base, just a chopper to third base. It felt like they were playing on a softball field size, and he's beating it out. Hit a ball right in the gap, kind of between first and second, but it was soft. Normally an easy play where the pitcher is getting over, or the first baseman even can go and tag the base.
Yeah.
And he beats it out. Just incredible speed, making some great plays in spring training out there. But he is in the big leagues now for Tampa Bay, and it's
Well,
awesome
speed. I
because
mean, speed's changing the game. The Brewers the other day stole 9 bases and set their team record. Teams are running, and I think it's a lot of it is so we saw some of the bases when we were in Cincinnati that were bigger. They look
yeah,
mammoth. They look so big.
it looked like something out of a cartoon.
They look
I'd
like
say
bases
that's
on steroids. It's ridiculous. They're so big. And then the two throw rule, and then I think a lot of it too, the way first basemen aren't holding guys on seemingly as close, and the way there's so much technology now and understanding guys pop times and things like that. I mean, advantage runner for sure, definitely advantage runner.
no, exactly. It's advantage to teams that prioritize speed. And again, I think you can have a team, and I don't know. I can envision teams again going back to having a little bit of everything, opposed to all of kind of the same guys.
Yeah,
To
like
as
those
far as
mid '80s Cardinals teams that were Vince
yeah, with
Coleman
Coleman
and
and
Willie
Ozzie,
McGee and Tommy
yeah,
Herter and
to where you have guys that can and if you're lucky, you get every once in a while you get a guy that can do both. But it's okay if you have a guy who hit 300 and can really, really run and really, really play his position defensively.
yeah.
And then it's okay if you got a guy who doesn't run as well, but he's going to hit that 240 and have a chance to hit 30, 40 home runs. I think I don't know. Well, obviously, we'll see what happens with the Padres. Again, me and you, because of all the guys they got hit for average, we're pulling for them. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of a crazy, crazy event that happened with Ariza that you were telling me about
Yeah,
before we got on.
Luis Ariz was
Right.
trying to bunt his way on and pull it up the first baseline. First baseman fielded it. The second baseman was covering and went over, and the first base or the second baseman kind of moved into the baseline while Ariz was coming up. and they collided just kind of head on. And Arise seemingly got the worst of it. He had to carry him out on a stretcher, so he wasn't doing good. So they took him to the hospital for some evaluation. So we'll be
Interesting.
seeing how
That's
Arise
interesting.
does. But Brian, it's Monday.
Athlete, you should know. Let's hear this one. Hey, you sent this one to me. I did know that or knew of this one, but I'll be curious how many people actually know of this one, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like, there's a lot of people that probably heard this story or heard about this guy as a character almost, but I don't know how many people actually know about this guy. So, athlete, you should know.
So this week we're sticking to baseball. It's a fella named Eddie Goodell. So Eddie Goodell. So this is a moment where fans in the stands who were at the game thought it was a joke. And honestly, it kind of was a joke, but it kind of changed the game forever as well. So Eddie Goodell was the shortest player ever to appear in a Major League Baseball game, standing at 3 foot 7 inches and weighing 65 pounds. And so he stepped up to the St. Louis Browns for an at bat on August 19th, 1951, and instantly became a legend. So what happened was Bill Veeck was the kind of king of stunts, king of promotions, king of yeah. The name Veeck is just notorious with that throughout baseball, right? And he was the owner of the St. Louis Browns. Team wasn't doing great at all, so he hatched this plan to boost ticket sales. So they had a doubleheader, and during the second game of a doubleheader, Veeck had Eddie Goodell pinch hit, and so he steps up to the plate. Brian, do you know what his number was when he came up to the plate?
What number was it? 0 or half or what
It
was
was
it?
1/8, 1/8,
Eight. Mm.
and he was a legitimate player. He had a signed contract, and so when he came up to the plate, the umpire was like, "What? Like, what is this?" Like, because he knew that. So they had his contract handy, ready in the dugout. They double checked the paperwork before letting him come up to bat because he actually pinch hit for the leadoff batter, but everything was legit. And so Beck actually really threatened Goodell not to swing the bat. He did not want him to swing the bat, right? And he wanted him to go up there with like a really crouched batting stance to essentially eliminate the strike zone. And so he was crouched, right? And so they measured the strike zone at just over like an inch and a half
Oh my gosh!
when he was up there.
And
So
what was his true size? What was his true height?
3 foot 7.
Holy cow!
So I mean, really short. And so the pitcher for Detroit's a guy named Bob Kane. He didn't have a chance, dude. He didn't, So 4 straight pitches, didn't swing. Trotted down the first base. Crowd went crazy, and then he was substituted for a pinch runner. So baseball was not like Major League Baseball was not happy about this. Like, you're making a mockery of the game, right? What are we
Yeah.
doing here? And so they added a rule requiring all players' contracts to be approved by the league office before they could appear in a game. And so, in large part to Eddie Goodell stepping up there as a 3 foot 7 inch player with no chance.
Oh, that's incredible. That's
But
awesome.
but Vec kind of made his point. Like, it's entertainment. It's fun, right? It's ultimately that's what it is, right? It's um, we're there to entertain the fans, and that's what he did. So, and then Eddie Goodell was actually, a little bit about him. He was actually a performer. He worked in circuses and promotional gigs before baseball. Was an actor, and then he would sign autographs saying, "I'm the shortest man to ever play in the majors." So he was a big part of history. Eddie Goodell only lived to be 36 years old, passed away in 1961, but still a symbol for kind of one of the strangest moments in baseball history. So,
Yeah. We have seen I don't know. A lot of people have probably seen that famous I don't know. I guess it's maybe the college, or not the college, Little League World Series, where a kid goes up there and he squats down like his knees are at his chest. He's squatting down like a catcher position. And then there's a pitch thrown, and the umpire calls it a strike. And it's like, yeah, you can't squat down to make yourself
Yeah, the kid was
3
squatting like
foot.
he was sitting on a squatty potty sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, 60-pound Eddie was incredible. And what a interesting, how the game has changed. I still am seeing a lot of banana ball, a lot of those tactics. I haven't seen. They brought out a guy on stilts. I haven't seen any little people, but I have seen. The guy on the stilts who hits and pitches, which is pretty incredible skill as well for Savannah
that
Bananas.
sounds pretty dangerous. I don't know if I'd be partaking in that, but that's good. So last thing, Brian, before you get moving, what are your thoughts on this? It's I think we're going to start seeing some of those pop-up tents on the side of the roads with the strawberries here in North Carolina.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you stop by those pop-up tents and grab you a box of strawberries every once in a while?
I've got a place literally right across the street from my neighborhood that sells. And this was the first weekend, and I was stepped out for a little bit in the car doing some stuff. I come back, and my wife or kids or somebody had already went over there and filled up their bucket. And so I do not. A lot of times we'll go to the mountains, and like you see honey and different things on the side of the road. And that's always kind of interesting because there's nobody checking to see if how they're getting in the bottles or whatever. But yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I'm not a normally a stop on the road kind of guy, but nowadays you don't necessarily have to have cash. Most of these people have some type of app or something you can use your card with. But it's I'm not opposed to it. I mean, I feel like that could be an option on your pickle side too. I keep pushing on the pickles. I think maybe if you need a little side hustle money, you could set a little stand up for your pickles, Paul's pickles.
Next to the strawberry guy. Yeah, maybe.
For sure.
We'll make it happen. So, yeah. Right. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate it. Make sure you continue to like, subscribe, and follow. If there's anything you want to, if there's an athlete we should know about that we should tell other about, send us an email, wrightstewartpodcast@gmail. We're happy to do that as well. And then if you're a YouTube watcher, Brian and I are working on that. We've had a little bit of change here from some different perspectives. We're going to get our beautiful mugs, beautiful faces back on there just as soon as we can. But we appreciate your patience in that, and you go out there and make it a wonderful and amazing Monday.
Out, go Pack, go Tigers. Pack with a sweep this weekend. Go Pack, go Tigers. Out.